me, Mommy.
Is there anybody out there?
All right. Okay, if I may, we have finally dialed in. So it sounds like we've got 2 participants. If we could just have the names of the folks on the phone, that would be great.
Yeah, Adam Burrows.
Hi, Adam. How are you?
Thank you, David.
Adam.
Fine.
Good evening. This is Sarah Michelson.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Great. Okay. Thank you for that. So with that, technology is ensconced. Call to order at, looks like 7:53, or I'm sorry, 7:33, right?
Yep. Transpose.
Great. Okay, thank you all for joining. We've got a number of people here physically at the town hall, so that's great. And what I would like to do is start with a discussion with Amanda Blair and Evan Griswold in terms of potentiality of a purchase, right, for open space. And then we'll proceed from there in terms of our usual order of business.
Dave, do you want to seat Matt or somebody at this point?
I'll entertain a motion if, yeah.
Make a motion for Matt to sit in for Jude Reed.
Jude did reach out to me and she did ask that Matt is seated. So, no, I appreciate that for reminding me. So, there was a motion. Is there a second? Garvin. Any discussion? Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of seating Matt Olson for Jude Reed, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, great. So, Amanda, floor is yours.
Thank you. And I'm going to defer to Evan, who will start our discussion on the proposed Ames acquisition, and we do have a board here that shows you.
This is the current Ames open space properties, which we have acquired over the last probably 20 years from Stephen Ames in pieces, and it has become kind of the jewel in the crown as far as town open space is concerned. It has both outstanding ecological characteristics as well as historical significance with the Native American caves that were excavated by John Pfeiffer, I think as part of his PhD thesis back in the 60s or 70s, I guess. And so it has the whole property is mostly wooded. This is forested land that is part of the Black Hole River watershed, and from I-95 north, we all probably know that the Black Hole River becomes Bucky Brook and runs up to Black Hole Pond. This part of the watershed in recent years has seen an influx of beavers, which we have, as a matter of policy, encouraged. They are nature's engineers, and they are extremely beneficial to the ecosystem in and around this property for a number of reasons. One of them is certainly water quantity. Beaver ponds keep the aquifers, which is very important. The Black Hole River watershed is one of the great and important aquifers of the town of Old Lyme. Beavers maintain the water level in a way that that recharges the aquifer so that those who have wells throughout town and especially throughout the watershed will have plenty of water. They also, because of the trapping sediment and pollutants in the ponds, they contribute to a very high water quality. So we're encouraging.
Absent Giardia.
Well, I suppose if you put your nose in the pond and drink right out of the water, but for other,
Your point is taken.
For man-made pollutants,
Giardia is not an insignificant problem.
No, I understand.
So beavers have pluses and minuses.
Yes, but they overall they're very beneficial to this ecosystem. They also contribute to nesting sites and habitat for wildlife, and because it changes over time, and there's a.
How many acres are we talking about?
Well, of the whole, I'm not sure exactly how big the Ames property is, but what we're talking about in this is an addition of an adjacent parcel to the north, which would be up in here.
It shows that on this chart, that purple shows how the acquisition would place with the Ames.
Right in.
So it's very at the northern.
So how many acres and how
35.
much? How many acres?
35.
35 acres. And what's the proposed price?
And the proposed price is $400.
We're going to get into that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Evan's presenting the environmental, and then I'll discuss the finances.
So what we're looking at, essentially, this is maybe a little easier to see. This is the Ames parcel that we own now, that the town owns now.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're proposing here to add to the northern edge of the property.
Okay.
And it was part of the subdivision that was approved in 2005. We're buying essentially two lots that have been combined. Steve Ames figured he could save some taxes if he combined the lots, put it back into one parcel, and put it under current use taxation. So what we're buying is a 35-acre parcel, not two lots, but so that's where we are. And one of the things that one of the reasons we really would like to have this is that it provides excellent access. Steve Ames did a lot of work, and to his credit, put in a very nice gravel road with underground utilities for the subdivision, and so this parcel has great access, and we plan to utilize the access for the good of the public. So we have talked to the neighbors. There's one house off the road that comes in from Whippoorwill Road. That's Joe and Tammy Tinarillo, and they're enthusiastic about the town getting this as open space. And then we have also the Indian caves as part of the property, and
The existing property.
in the existing property.
Yep.
The 35 acres encompasses some hillside, forested hillside, some water, a little tributary to Bucky Brook that comes down, and then also part of the Bucky Brook floodplain.
So it's 35 acres.
Yeah.
Right?
So why don't I take over from here?
And also talk about the marketing process, right? And so it's obviously more than what we paid for per acre for a lot of other properties. So
Not
that's
necessarily.
Well, in the current market, I think that we, having it appraised grant, but let me
Yeah.
follow through and tell, and then if you have questions.
Yeah, I would like to not be the only buyer, sole buyer, if it were just me solely. I'm not speaking for the Board of Finance, right? But if somebody says, hey, it's $400,000, and you guys said, hey, it's $400,000, we can buy it, that's one thing.
Yeah.
It's another thing if it's been marketed for like 8 years for $400,000 and we're paying $400,000, if you get my drift.
No.
Well, the lot adjoining it has recently sold, and the other lot is under contract at full market value. So, but let me start and just introduce a few facts to complement what Evan said. For us, Ames has become a jewel in the town's open space for its educational and heritage potential. The Commission has received 3 grants, each one from the Rockefeller Foundation, the Hartford Audubon Society, and the Beaver Institute for wildlife conservation and education on the property. Beavers in our town have received considerable negative ink, but as Evan has discussed, they play an important role in nature. With grant support, we have constructed 2 wildlife observation areas to show how their ponds become home to a wide variety of species. Our handouts show the progress of the grant activity, and the second shows 2 national park-like signs we've purchased to install on the property. The Native American caves or shelters on Ames are exceptionally important features of the town's heritage, showing our land was occupied over 4,250 years ago by the town historian. The Commission intends to apply for grants to highlight the history of early indigenous life. The purchase price for approximately 35 acres of forested land, which adjoins the existing Ames open space, is $400,000. The owner, Stephen Ames, has agreed to take back a purchase money mortgage of $200,000 for 2 years at current market interest rates. This property is located at the end of a private road, and after discussion with the Commission members, the Selectman, and adjoining lot owners, it is agreed that the Open Space Commission will pay 40% of the road's annual maintenance costs. We broke that down. It's a 5-lot subdivision. Each lot pays 20%, and we are purchasing 2 lots. Since the use of this property will be open space, the owner has also agreed to release the Open Space Commission, the town of Old Lyme, from the current residential restrictions on the property. Our current balance in our open space acquisition fund is $418,000, of which we will use $200,000 towards the purchase. Additional funds will be used for anticipated costs, attorney's fees, appraisal costs, and possible additional surveys.
But there's a bullet. In 2 years, we're going to owe the guy money, right?
Okay, could I finish my little spiel? Thank you. We anticipate in using some of our carryover funds for prior years to cover most of our startup costs, kiosks, trails, parking areas, etc., and we will be applying for grants to reduce our overall expenses. The Commission is preparing a grant application through the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental, or DEEP's, Competitive Open Space and Watershed Land Acquisition Program for half the acquisition cost. DEEP has 4 priorities for this program, with natural heritage resources listed second only to natural and drinking water resources. If one considers Ames to be a layered cake, this acquisition is the icing on the top. Thank you.
So, as I understand it, if we purchase this, we forego any tax revenue from that in perpetuity, is that correct?
Right, once it becomes open space.
Okay, so if that's true, how much is the tax revenue that we're going to forego if we purchase this?
Right now, it's currently under forest land assessment, so it's probably under $1,000 that you're losing.
Okay, so it's around $1,000?
I would say, I'd have to double check on the figure, but it's a floor
Yeah, and
plan.
if you sold these 2 lots to private individuals with children, you'd be talking about maybe $8,000 to $10,000 per child in school costs. So we're saving the town, what, $20,000?
Yeah, I mean, by that there, you'd buy all your land and you wouldn't have anybody live there, but that's a different.
So are you saying that the 35 acres it can be subdivided into only 2 building lots?
Yes.
Yes.
It was approved, 2 building lots were approved, one of...
And what's the fair market value today of those 2 as for-profit building lots?
Well, there was a recent sale of 2 lots on Old Shore Road for $595. 525, was it?
$525 each?
No,
For
the 2 lots.
So maybe the $400,000 is a little below fair market value?
Well, if you take that as a...
Direct comp, right.
As a direct comp, yes.
Okay. And do you have any insight into the probability that we would get the DEEP grant?
It's a very competitive grant, but I think, like we said, the natural resources and the heritage part with the American Indian caves on them, we plan on contacting a few of the senators. I don't know if you're Senator Kathy Austin. She's a friend of mine who's very active with the Mashantuckets and the Pequots, and we'll talk to her about it.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't applied for a grant in the past. Sometimes they hold it against you if you keep applying year after year. It's not the only grant we're looking at. There are several other grants that are around, and we can continue to apply.
Sure. But if we don't get the grant, you said that there's $418,000 in the open space reserve or whatever.
The acquisition fund, which gets funded $75,000 a year. So in 2 years, we'd be $150,000.
So
Richard.
the current paperwork that we just got for this meeting shows the fund at 343. Now, I'm not sure if this year's $75,000
No, because I have
was added to that, but this is dated 8/31.
Okay, I have an email from Nicole Stodhire and asked her that question. It's $418,000. So I don't know, so maybe if you add the 75.
Yeah, that would come out too.
That's what figures that she gave me.
If I can just ask a market question, is this being marketed? How did this come to you?
Yeah, this has been marketed since 2005.
Since 2005. What was the price in 2005?
A lot higher. But I think that
No, that's a real question. It's not.
No, it was. It's been reduced and it's now under 4, so it's has
Right.
a less
It seems like
investment.
we are the buyer of last resort. Could be.
Well-
Are we talking about there's 3 offers and we're like bidding and that sort of thing?
No.
Or is this, it could happen, you know?
Well, David, I think we've all seen in the past year with COVID, the pandemic, the prices of real estate in our area have skyrocketed.
So why do we want to pay right now for something that's probably not going
Well,
to
because
develop?
we've been negotiating, no, I don't think that's true. If you look at the recent sale of the Lord's Meadow, every one of those lots sold, and they're now putting spec houses on it.
That's
And they-
Lord's Meadow, though. That's not
and-
here.
They've been on the market almost as long, Dr. Al was. I'm looking at transfers of property that are going higher than their listing price. We've seen lot sales, and I'm sure you all know my husband was an appraiser, and I talk to appraisers all the time. We have had the appraisers looking at this for several years of our thoughts to acquire this, and they have informed us that our price is a market
Historically,
value.
we paid $8,000 to $9,000 for undeveloped properties. We are going to have a maintenance requirement going forward. That's what I heard. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's different from
most of our acquisitions, all of the acquisitions that I've been aware of, right? So that's going to diminish the value a little bit if it costs $2,500, that sort of thing. So what you're talking about is $11,000 an acre. And the proposition, in my personal view, is a wonderful addition to what we've already got. I walk it all the time with my daughters. It's great. What I'm concerned about is Steve Ames is like, it's the top of the market. I got somebody to buy it. I don't have anybody else. Let's sell it.
I'm not sure that.
Are there any other bidders? Are we the only bidder right now?
Well, we wouldn't be aware of that, but I can tell you that the lot next to it.
But you would be. You would be talking to a broker, and they'd say, "Yep, we've got 3 or 4 offers, and we're doing stuff." And
Let me ask a related question, which is $400,000 the asking price?
No, 439.
Okay, so you've already tried to negotiate the price down.
Yes.
And you've succeeded by 10% approximately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But that's a French way of thinking of things. Like, I want $1 billion, but I'll settle for $100 million.
The other side of the coin that you're asking is this the best price we can get at this point in time? And
we're paying.
And these folks are saying, we think, I'm inferring that you're saying we think we've got the best price that the seller will sell for at this point in time.
We've been told over and over that's the only price he would sell at.
I want to understand, and I should note this, but the town allocates, as a matter of course, $75,000 a year to the Open Space Commission's purposes. And of that $75,000, how much of it is available for capital expenditures versus maintenance of our town property?
Well, the acquisition fund is for acquisition and related costs, like attorneys, surveys.
So the $75,000 is just acquisition.
Yeah, it's all available.
Attendant costs of acquiring property.
Sure,
We'll need appraisals.
And you're saying, though, that the 75, that the amount in the fund today plus the 75,000 per year going forward would be more than enough to cover this acquisition if necessary, because you don't get a grant.
Mm-hmm.
So the price that we would pay, price in quotes, is this would foreclose your purchasing other property.
Well,
but it is still within the budget of the Open Space Committee.
That's available.
Yeah. That's available.
Yeah.
So let me just point out a few things, gentlemen and ladies. And first of all, I want to thank the Board of Finance, because you've always been very generous to us. I remember the first time we came, it was Bill Dunbar and myself, and I felt like I was deer in headlights. Diana had just passed, and I had boxes in my house of her stuff. And I said, they want to know a budget? So we went in and said, we really don't have any idea. We renewed what we had, and we carried forward. Well, since then, we've sharpened the pencil a little. We've gone for grants. We've expanded our board. We're very active. As we said, I have a grant writer. We're writing grants. We're getting a lot of funds in, which is really good. I think we did, and I have copies if you want them, we updated the Open Space Plan 2020, and when the presentation was made to the Selectmen, the answer was, what do you want? We said, more money to buy more open space. It's a limited quantity. We see towns all over. Evan and I are on land boards. We go to meetings, conferences. We hear towns that are bonding to purchase open space. Some passive recreation, some wildlife refuge. So we are always looking. If something comes up, like 2 years ago, I came to you for the McCullough property, which is beautiful. And by the way, the startup cost on that for my Tree in the Gap parking lot was over $7,000, and I have maintenance on that. So I also got out of that 2 affordable housing lots, and we're working with the Affordable Housing Commission. I had a conversation with them. We took some of our carryover funds from this past year. We had the lots marked. We had test holes done, so we can say to the Affordable Housing Commission, These aren't building envelopes that we acquired from the Nature Conservancy. These are buildable lots. And I think if anything else this town needs is some affordable housing lots. When we look at an acquisition, we always look at the fact, is there a lot that we could spin off for affordable housing? So,
Is that part of this or no?
no, this would not be that. But we are working on the McCullough with that commission. We are looking at other properties, and there's road frontage, which would be perfect. So that always enters into our mind. We're not only protecting and preserving nature.
Amanda, you might mention those affordable lots. If they actually transfer and become affordable lots, you get paid.
That's right. So the deal on McCullough was $600,000 purchase price, $500,000 for the land, and $100,000 for 2 building envelopes that were well below.
Properties that you could build, basically.
No, 2 3-acre lots.
Focus on this.
But that we get $100,000 back if those lots are taken over, back into our acquisition.
Yeah, so let me ask a procedural question, and then I'll leave it open to everybody else. So what are you asking for tonight? Where are you in the process and that sort of thing? Because we've raised a bunch of...
a lot of good questions.
Yeah, and my personal biggest is, are we just the patsy? Because if you tell me that there's no other bidders, I feel like the guys, like I've had this on for, 13 years or whatever it is, and I got somebody who's finally going to buy this. And I walk through that property probably twice a year at least with my daughters and everything else. And so same with Lord's Meadow. Lord's Meadow sat pretty much fallow for a long period of time, and COVID came. Now we're at the top of the market, and we are going to buy, at the top of the market prices. That's just a question. So do we have other bidders? Obviously, that's a market thing. We can get appraisals and that sort of thing. So, I would ask you what you're asking of the Board of Finance tonight, and if there's no action item, then you've informed us. That's great. And then we can kind of take this up, a month from now. Or if you're asking us for action tonight, we didn't receive anything prior to this meeting, so I don't think it's appropriate for us to take any action tonight. So...
Well, when a town signs a contract to purchase land, it's an 8-24 municipal acquisition, and so it's required of us for the Open Space Commission to go through the Board of Selectmen, and we did a presentation to the board, and they came out and said they agreed to sign the contract of sale.
When was that?
About 3 weeks ago, Tim?
No, it's less than that, 2 weeks ago.
Well, it's all conditioned upon the approval, so it was executed fairly recently.
So Board of Finance doesn't know about it, right, until tonight?
Well,
what you did was you asked the Board of Selectmen to
sign a
authorize and sign a contract that requires an expenditure, and we haven't heard about that because, right? I mean, it's...
Well, we made an announcement, Tim made an announcement on Friday. We've had some publicity, but we're doing a presentation as part of the municipal acquisition for the Board of Finance to tell you what we would like to do. We need your approval and the Planning Commission approval before we can go to town meeting and let the town vote on it. So this is part of our procedure. So we asked Michelle to put us on the agenda so we could do a presentation to you and answer any questions.
What's your timing? What's the required timing?
We've
had conversations with the seller, right? We've got a contract.
We had a signed, we made an offer. We negotiated the offer. He signed the offer. We took it to the Board of Selectmen. They approved it, and Tim signed it. Now we're going through the normal procedures of acquisition, which is to come to you guys to go to the planning commission, go to, hopefully, if we get approved by the commissions, we go to town meeting. That's how the procedure works. So
We'd like to complete this late fall, before the end of the year. The seller is anxious, and so this is a good market, and he has other opportunities. Since we've signed this contract, the lot next to us has gone under contract. So
as I understand it, the commission has determined this is the best use of the funds that you have at this point in the interest of Old Line.
Right.
The Board of Selectmen has apparently agreed with that. You're seeking the approval of the Board of Finance and the Planning Commission, and ultimately the town has to agree. So it's a multi-step approval process.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we're one step in that process.
Yeah. And would you not agree that this is the first time that the Board of Finance is hearing about this?
Well, I don't know if you read Tim's letters on Selectmen on Fridays, because it was published in there. We're just getting the publicity out, and this was the first opportunity you had a meeting that we could schedule it, so we asked to be placed on the agenda.
But we can do special meetings, and so when did you start negotiations on this parcel? I mean, it's not an insignificant amount, and I don't mean to, be...
We've been negotiating on and off with the Stephen Ames and his family for, I would say, over 20 years for portions of the Ames property.
But
for this piece of property,
you now have a signed contract, right?
So
last couple of years it's gone. It's
when did you sign the contract?
Tim signed the contract.
16th of September.
16th of September. When did you talk to the Board of Selectmen about this acquisition first?
We have kept Tim involved in the negotiations over the last several months.
Several months. Okay.
So, but it's you negotiate.
I'm just trying to figure out what action you want out of us tonight.
Well, we'd like you to consider, if you think you're ready to vote on the acquisition, that'd be fine. If you want to take time to discuss it, if you want to have us come back to another meeting or a special meeting, that's fine. We've scheduled it for the planning. So, it's up to you. We are doing our presentation and trying to answer as many questions as you have, but if you want to think about it, that's certainly your prerogative.
As chairman, we can always have a special meeting.
Okay.
I don't like, and historically this has happened a lot, where we've had a major decision that's shown up and we have to decide on, a fire dock down at Academy Lane or something like that we know nothing about, and we're asked to do something. So I would observe that, but then I would open it up to comments and motions and anything else that the Board of Finance would like. Yeah.
I hear that you're a little upset that we didn't have more advanced information, but what additional information would we want? I don't feel that way. I'm not annoyed at all that it just came up this way. But the reason for postponing it would be to get additional information. And so my question really for everybody is, do we want additional information? Would that help?
You know what, BJ? And so here's my biggest issue is that I'm hearing that there were no other bidders. And the offer was $439, we got it to $400, right? And this was we've now signed some sort of contract. I would like to have had people come to us and say, look, we've got a parcel that seems like it's reasonable, and it's wonderful, and it is, right? This makes all sorts of sense.
Right.
But
I agree with you. If it were a private commercial transaction, you're in the real estate business, I'm a corporate guy, maybe I understand why this may not be the best price, but I don't think it's in our jurisdiction to really second guess that. The Open Space Committee thinks it's the right time and the right amount to spend, and more important to me, the Board of Selectmen has, as a policy matter, decided it's the right thing for the town. So I always have sort of this question in my mind of balancing the jurisdiction, the roles between the Board of Selectmen on the one hand, and the Board of Finance on the other. And although the Board of Finance can certainly, do its thing and inform the Board of Selectmen, if they think it's the right thing to do and the money is available, I don't really know that and we think, as I tend to after hearing these folks, that it's a good thing for the town. I don't personally feel it's my right to second guess the price point.
And I respect that. My personal issue is we debate $2,000. We debate $1,800. Like, hey, Tim, you didn't complete this thing from 4 years ago and all this other stuff, right? This is a material item, and it's worth hearing. What you presented tonight would have been wonderful to hear prior to this meeting, and even if it were 2 weeks before this meeting, so that we can consider things and you could hear back and forth and you say, oh, you know what, it's been on for a long time and 439 and now it's 400 and that sort of thing. But that's my personal issue. Anna.
I am excited to hear from you guys. I love it when you guys come and talk to us. I think this would be a great acquisition. My question is because we clearly have the funds already set aside, so you could honestly, I feel like, purchase this and it wouldn't have any effect.
I don't know if we do. Do we?
Yes,
Yeah.
Well, the 200,000 is definitely, and if Nicole says the 75 hasn't been added to this number, which seems strange, but this is dated August 31st, and it doesn't include that 75,000 from the current
That's an
budget
issue,
year.
but also is the issue is if it's a bullet note,
Here
you gotta make accommodations.
Here's the email from Nicole showing that we have 418,000.
But we also have to have money in 2 years to pay this guy back, right?
Right, but
So that's a Board of Finance consideration.
They already have that. So my question is, I'd like to finish. My question to you guys is, are there any other properties in the town that you've been considering that you feel like may come up in the years until we can refill the fund, the acquisition fund, that might require us to do special financing that to go to the town?
It's funny.
Or are you so comfortable with this that really you'd be depleting a significant good bit of your acquisition fund for several years?
So let me digress for a moment, because I think what I'm hearing from you, David, is that you feel uncomfortable. So I have to say, I came to the Board of Finance 2 years ago with McCulloch, and I asked for $600,000. And the Board of Finance said that night, this is awesome, this is wonderful, we do it. And so I may be misinformed or just presumptuous or something. I thought that was the procedure that we came through. I'm hearing from you that you wanted more.
Did you show up and ask for $400,000?
Well, that's what we did at
Presumptuous is a word,
but David, she did her due diligence in that she asked the finance director how much is in their fund, and she said more than the amount of money you're asking for. So I don't see where that's relevant at all tonight. Like, she isn't asking for...
You don't think it's relevant, Anna?
No.
That somebody comes to us and asks for $400,000?
When we already have a budget for it, the money's already sitting there waiting for them. So no, I don't think it's ridiculous for them to come and say, hey, can we spend the money you've been saving for us on this parcel that we think is valuable? We've already gotten the selectmen to approve of it. No, I don't think it's ridiculous.
We are elected, they are not. We are elected, they are not.
Well, the Board of Selectmen's elected.
Yeah, I think we're arguing over this.
But I just...
Whether it's appropriate or not appropriate to not have had prior advance warning. I really think the only question is your question, David, whether we should postpone a decision tonight. And my ability to answer that question depends on what are we waiting to get. If there's more information that would be useful, then I might support postponing it. If there isn't more information and the board thinks they're ready to decide.
And that's a vote tonight.
Yeah.
Right? And so I've been very careful to express my personal opinion about this, right? Like, I don't like it to get surprised by $400,000 acquisitions when somebody has known about for a long period of time, right?
Well,
a long period of time, and all of a sudden we're asked to vote on it, right?
David, we haven't known that we were actually getting this until
the last couple of weeks.
Maybe the last couple of weeks. So
I understand.
And I've been in the real estate business for 40 years, and the one thing that you don't do is go out and cry to the masses that you're negotiating on a piece of property.
That's why we have executive session. That's why we have executive session.
So in the future, would you like us to do it? We don't mind. We're just
Again,
trying to
this
see
is
what it's about.
this is me personally, it's not the Board of Finance. So what I would ask is that anybody can make a motion right now, and we can discuss it, and we can vote, yeah.
I have a question, Amanda. You said a parcel adjacent to it just recently went under contract. How many acres and how much did that go under contract for?
Let's see.
I don't know if you said that before, I might have missed
I
it.
think that was about 12 acres, and it went for close to listing price. I have that. Well, I can't tell you what the contract price is because it hasn't closed.
Okay.
But it was, let's see.
So what you have is the listing price for the 12 acres?
No, what I had was, this is the one that is under contract. Now, under contract, they will not disclose the price, but that's what it was listed at, and that was the acreage.
So it was
12 acres.
12 acres for basically $200,000.
Yeah.
So it's in the same
Same ballpark.
ballpark. It may not close, it may close for 180.
It may blow apart.
We don't know, or it may not close at all.
It's also a building lot as opposed to open space, so, there's...
Well, these are
There's other
building
issues.
lots. These could be building lots.
Yeah.
These could go back into building lots again. They'll have to walk it through subdivision, but they could this one large forested lot of 35 acres could go back into the two original lots that it was.
Yeah. So,
I have one more question.
Sure.
Please confirm for me that we won't be buying the beaver dam that is causing so much stress to the owner whose lot is flooded.
Oh,
Well,
goodness.
that's,
It's a yes or no question. Can we just get to it?
we don't know where the beaver pond is that's affecting Mr. Bergman on Black Hole Pond. It's assumed that it's over in the vicinity of the land trust land. We also have a number of beaver dams. One's in 95 that's blocking a culvert. There's one under the town of Whippoorwill. But we've worked with them, and Tim and I are working on the one under the Whippoorwill with the state of Connecticut, and we've gotten a grant to fund some of
My
this.
narrow legal question is whether it's possible that we would have liability to this homeowner by reason of making this purchase and owning this land.
The water is on the other side of Whippoorwill Road from where the Black Hall Pond is, so we have to go up over the road and all the way up to the pond. That's pretty unlikely.
There's several beaver dams located north of Whippoorwill that are not on town
There are
land.
a series of dams,
Man-made.
three or four below Whippoorwill Road to the north of this property, and then we don't know how many.
So, for example, the homeowner whose name I'm blanking on has attempted to destroy, there have been in the newspapers remediation efforts, whether it's destroying the dams or tunneling through the dams or whatever, and the dams that have been identified are not on this property.
They're on Old Lyme Land Trust property and private homeowners up in that area.
I guess it begs another question. I would assume that the contract that we're signing is usual and customary, and so there aren't carve-outs for any existing litigation or anything that we would be assuming by buying the property and that sort of thing.
The attorneys drafted the contract of sales, our town attorneys. So they've done their due diligence, I would assume.
So it wasn't the seller's contract, it was the buyer's contract. That's good. So thank you for that. So at any rate, we can have further discussion, but I would...
Sorry, I just wanted to get the answer to Anna's question.
Oh, sorry.
From you, Amanda. She had said that you were going to be tying up a significant amount of your funds if you went ahead and purchased this. So what else Or are there any other prospective properties that you're looking at in the next couple of years that you might think?
We're always looking at properties, and like I mentioned before, there are towns that bond. Our fund 2 years ago had grown quite large, and Evan brought Dave McCulloch into one of our meetings, and we went out and boom, 600,000, and we have McCulloch. So you never know. We have acquired a piece recently. We're hoping to get the title, the deed, and take it to town meeting along with this, of a parcel that abuts, it came from an open space subdivision. It's about 9 acres, and it abuts the McCulloch and the Lay property and gives us access over by Flat Rock Hill and Short Hills. There's vacant land there. So we approach the property owners. These aren't major purchases usually. They're smaller pieces. And as you all know, there's not that much available land in Old Lyme. But we're always looking. And like I said, if I see something, if Evan sees something that we could carve out a lot for affordable housing, then we would certainly come to you in the affordable housing and say, hey, this looks like a pretty good, opportunity for all of us. But people call us all the time, we'll walk land, and we don't hear anything from them for 5 years. But we are looking, I will say. Yes, I'm sorry.
Eddie? So the town meeting vote, and this may be more, Tim, question for you, is it to spend the money or is it to accept the land into the town?
You'd have to approve the withdrawal of the money from the open acquisition fund.
So ultimately it's the taxpayers
and acquire the properties, both.
So that would all be done at the town meeting in one fell swoop.
And we do a little public hearing at the same time.
Okay.
Thank you. You have any land to sell?
You never know.
Okay, so what exactly are you looking for us?
Your approval.
Approval of what?
I guess it would be to recommend to a town meeting.
Spend the $400,000 to buy the 35 acres,
what did
right?
what did the Board of Selectmen approve?
That's the long and the short of it, is that the Board of Finance has looked at this and feels that this is an important enough acquisition for the town, which I hope we've made somewhat of a case, and especially in the last year and a half when open spaces have been very important to the town.
The only thing that I would ask, Amanda, going forward is heads up, right?
So that's fine. Let us know what you'd like us to do in a presentation. Would you? We can have an executive. If you've got something that's hot and heavy, right, and you're ready to go, or you've got something that's kind of exciting. If you come to us, we can have an executive committee. And talk about it.
Or an executive session that would not be, there would not be minutes, we couldn't vote on it, but we could be informed about it. And so we could be up to speed, we could ask questions, and then put it on the agenda to vote on it.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. So when we go, now usually, because we deal with the first selectman, we keep them posted on things that we're doing, and heads up, or no, you shouldn't be doing this, something like that. So when we do an executive session with the Board of Selectmen to do a presentation, would you like to be included in that?
That's not on you. That's on the Board of Selectmen. So appreciate that.
But that could be, to make it more efficient, that could certainly be done.
Well, I was just thinking that then everybody could get the heads up.
Because we've had a long experience of getting jammed with stuff where we show up and all of a sudden we have a big decision to make.
Right.
And it's that night or, the world's going to blow up, that sort of thing. And that's not this case necessarily. But there are questions like, if we're the only buyers, are we the suckers or like what's the deal, And that's not necessarily the case because you guys have been working this for like 3-4 months. So I totally get it. But it feels like sometimes we get $10,000 requests, and it turns out when we've inquired, it was just, we thought 10,000 would be enough, that sort of thing. So, and you guys have done a phenomenal job and really appreciate it phenomenally because I do love this property in particular. This is my favorite property in Old Lyme. So maybe we can get rid of some of the improvements that have been made, right? So we can get rid of the utilities and that sort of thing, if that's the case. So I think what's being asked of us is to send this to a town meeting. Is that not right? Tim, Mary Jo? Is that what's being asked of us?
Recommend. I'm trying to scratch out,
did the Board of Selectmen recommend this go to a town meeting or no?
No, we did not.
So
They recommended, they agreed to the purchase of the property. And then when I checked with the town attorney for the 8-24, we come to the Board of Finance for your approval. I think it would also be just, because I'm one of those people that tries to cover all bases, to recommend it to the town meeting and recommend the purchase. That way...
Well, that's separate and apart from agreeing the contract, right? And so I guess the Board of Selectmen have agreed and signed the contract to purchase, right? Contingent upon our approval and then ultimately the town meeting.
Planning Commission.
Or Planning Commission if required, right?
Right, they're required.
And then ultimately the town's got to, hey, we got $400,000, okay, that's great, right? So for tonight, what we're being asked for, and I'm just, trying to narrow it down to what we're doing tonight, the motion would be to approve the purchase, approve entering into the contract to purchase the 35 acres that we're talking about. Is that?
Well, but the contract's already been signed.
So approve the purchase.
Well,
that's a little weird too, by the way.
Well, but it's, as you just said, it's obviously contingent, and the lawyers must have drafted it in a way that makes it contingent on other...
Well, you would think, but...
It has. I have a copy of it.
You have to read it to see.
Oh, great. So, you do?
So let's
we're not going to sit here and read it tonight.
I think we're just being asked to
just approve the fund.
Subject to other...
That's my only copy, though.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to want it.
Do you want to make the motion? Because I agree with you.
I just scratched out some text, see what you think.
Here's the copy.
Recommend to a town meeting the purchase of the combined lots 41-1 and 41-4 of Woods at Whippoorwill, consisting of approximately 35 acres owned by Stephen Ames at a purchase price of $400,000 with a 2-year seller mortgage of $200,000 and to use funds in the town's land acquisition fund to fund the acquisition. Something like that.
Well, I think that's perfect. Yeah. I'd add the proviso subject to the...
it's only one page.
Any other necessary regulatory approvals.
See the contingencies for the buyer?
Well, that's already in the contract.
Yeah.
And
municipal obligation or approvals and that sort of thing.
I think the town attorney informed me that they would need the recommendation of the Board of Finance to take it to a town meeting in that motion.
But I think the Board of, that's separate and apart, and it might need a special meeting. This is not part of your realm, but I think the Board of Selectmen need to deal with that.
Oh, he said Board of Finance.
The town attorney would draft the call of the meeting for the town meeting, which would have all the proper language in there.
Yeah, and so we just went through this. I mean, we shouldn't be reinventing the wheel. I mean, we bought 600 acres or
300 acres
or 300 acres, for $600,000 or whatever.
Unanimous in the decision.
Yes. The selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen was unanimous.
So Board of Selectmen, so for Board of Finance, because I do think to send it to a town meeting, the Board of Selectmen need to recommend it, and then we need to recommend it.
Yes.
We can't recommend it prior to the Board of Selectmen, I don't think.
I thought when you had the town meeting a couple of weeks ago, and you had to get the approval on the overrun for the police budget, it was the Board of Finance that had.
No, it was Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance.
Yeah, both.
So Board of Finance is secondary to the Board of Selectmen, at least in my experience. So I think for the time being, for tonight, and we can do special meetings to get this done, right? But it is, and we should memorialize what the process is going forward.
I know.
So we're not reinventing the wheel, yeah, exactly. Because this is a more usual thing that we do have at least a year, sometimes less, sometimes more. So should we, as a Board of Finance, endorse the approval of the Board of Selectmen to enter into the agreement that they've already entered into? Is that what we're doing? It's a little bit weird.
Isn't it about the money?
I think it's the money. I think we're voting to approve the expenditure of the open space acquisition fund to purchase this property.
But we can't do that because it's $400,000.
Well, we recommend it to town meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
But the Board of Selectmen have to recommend it first.
I don't know if the order
Matters.
I'm not
So
sure if
let's
the
take
order
care of that
matters.
now.
And
I'm not
Then
sure
I
if it
don't
does.
really care.
Then we'll find out.
Yeah, then we'll find out,
Do it
right,
again.
exactly.
We'll do it over Zoom.
Or we can make it contingent upon them approving it.
Yeah.
And as part of the motion,
Yeah.
can be contingent upon the Board of Selectmen approving it, going to town meeting as well.
I'm all
It's
ears.
a sticking point.
I'm all ears.
So it's 200,000 now, then 2 years from now, another 200,000 with interest on the 200,000 in the 2-year period.
And the interest rate is only
marketable.
It's only at the discount rate, which is less than 1% at this point.
Okay.
Oh, I think he said marketable. We're not sure of the interest rate, but it's, market rate is 2.
How about just based upon the contract that's been signed,
Yeah.
So, Board of Finance recommends to town meeting the consideration of how about as simple as this? The purchase.
Tim had one written up. I thought it was very.
Oh, what do you got?
Can you read your writing, Ken?
The only refinement that I would have, Tim, is striking the part about a 2-year mortgage. Purchase price of $400,000 kind of covers us because we're gonna owe another $200,000 in 2 years, and if we get into those details,
I guess.
right? And so approximately 35 acres. The purchase price is $400,000, right?
Right.
How it gets financed and that sort of thing.
Why wouldn't we have the money in the fund per Nicole's email?
Well, one of our thoughts was if we're applying for a grant
Okay.
and it comes in at 100 or 200,000,
Okay.
then it's not out of our pocket.
I got
If
you.
something comes up in between, and we're back pleading with you guys again.
And if you bought it for 400, would they then say, well, you already bought it, we don't need to give you?
Well, we cannot, on the grant application, which closes, they just extended it, I think, October 31st or November 1st, you cannot close on the property. Because we were also looking at a forest grant that we applied for last year and didn't get very competitive, and that didn't close until December 31st.
Okay.
So that's why I think it's with the low interest rate, we thought if the money came back in, we could pay off Steve, we could, look at it, then we'll come back to you and say, hey, what do you want us to do with this money?
Yeah.
You want to pay it? I like being debt-free, so I'd
Yeah.
rather pay it off.
Yeah.
But if something pops in between and we say,
I mean, that reason makes sense to
yeah,
allows us to apply and possibly get grant money to put towards the 400,000
right.
by not paying for the whole 400,000 now.
Right,
It
and that's
gives
what
us a
you're
little more
gonna
time on that makes sense.
One of the nice things about this is the survey map that was done in 2019. If you go for a grant, they want it in their name. And this is an A2 survey, FBA2 survey. So we can go back to the surveyor, said remove a few lines, put the town of Old Lyme on. We've done everything that the grant asked for. So a lot of the state of Connecticut grants, as you all know, they give you the grant, give you the award, and it takes forever to get the money.
Yeah.
We're ready to go
Yeah.
on that. So that's why when they say, if you get an award, it'll be announced late spring, we've got everything ready to go. So we can say, here we are, give us our money.
Now, the closing costs you're looking to use, I see that you've got
The
some money.
acquisition.
Those costs, you're using your carryover funds?
No, we're using our acquisition fund, allows for the survey, the attorney's fees, and the appraisal. For a grant round, we need a yellow book appraisal with a one review appraisal. That's between $3,500 and $5,000. I don't know what the survey fee, we haven't contacted them. Attorney's fees, we all know attorney's fees. There's no recording fees, no conveyance tax, any of that.
Okay.
So it's just deed prep, and this is simply, when we had McCullough, it took us 3 hours and 21 documents to do that closing. This one, it will be a deed and a mortgage, so.
Now, there is no broker, right? So the 6%
Well,
off 439.
That's up to the seller.
That's up to the seller, that's their responsibility.
What? Okay. So it says no broker procured the sale, and no broker's fee shall be due to any person or entity. Both folks signed this, so that gets you to the 400 grand. What's the ongoing share? The 20% that we share,
So
like a
what
homeowners
is you-
association or some sort?
So what you see right here
Private road.
This is a private road, and it's interesting because when he set up this development, one of our lots will own one half of the road. In the zoning regs, every lot has to have 25 feet on a town-accepted road. So in order to get around that, they create these 25-foot umbilical cords. So at this point, the Tinarellos, who own the first lot here, he has a maintenance company, and he's been maintaining that. And then this lot has been acquired by them through an LLC. For future development potential. This lot has now been sold. So what we'll do is we'll work out, who's going to do the gravel and who's going to do the snow maintenance. Now, one of the things we haven't looked at, we met with a surveyor, and you all know Tom Metcalf, to help us design our parking lot because public safety is number one with us. We may not continue the road all the way down. We want to make sure there's safe parking. We also, because of Roger Tory Peterson and other groups, we want to allow for like a hammerhead for small buses to come in to bring school children with the diversity of the Indian caves, things like this, the beaver and wildlife observation areas. So we want to make sure, one, there's safe parking, there's adequate, and it's away from the neighbors, so they're not.
How much is it going to cost?
I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know. The roadway is in. It's accessible. We have volunteers. We looked at it with the surveyor and the civil engineer, and it's a matter of trimming back some of the shrubs in the overhead. And it's right now. It's usable. You can use it right now.
That road's in great shape.
Right, but ongoing. Is it $1,000 a year? Is it $2,000 a year?
If you have 10 snowstorms, and if you have none.
But we would be responsible for that,
For a portion of it.
unlike other,
Well, not necessarily. Tree in the Gap, we have to worry about some maintenance on there.
Now, the town does.
The
right?
town.
Right.
Well, my budget, which you approved, we just had, and we work very well with Ed in Public Works. That whole department is just wonderful. We have the parking lot.
This is the end of the Tinarellos road, basically, right? And so how many feet would we be responsible for? What did you say it was?
We haven't decided how long how far in we're gonna continue the road. We need to do some site work. We had the engineer and the surveyor out looking at it. We need to be aware if there's any wetlands nearby. So we're gonna.
And there are, on the north side of the existing,
But if they're
property.
close enough, well, they got a subdivision through, so they, so we just have to do our due diligence. We're not really allowed access.
Again, it's part of you're showing up tonight, these are kind of questions.
Right.
And could be a little bit, could be, I don't know.
I don't know, but you know what? I'll come back in January with my budget and tell you.
Right, after we've approved it.
Well,
So that's the issue, right? So anyway, open it up to motion. So Tim's recommended motion, if I could eliminate the end.
As you wish.
Or anybody else's wishes. So recommend to the town meeting the purchase of the combined lots of 41-1 and 41-4 at the Woods at Whippoorwill, consisting of approximately 35 acres currently owned by Stephen Ames at a purchase price of $400,000.
so moved.
Anna? Second?
Wait a minute, you gotta do a land acquisition fund, right? You have to take money out of land acquisition.
You need to say that.
I don't think we need to, that needs to be part of the call.
Yeah.
That needs to be part of the call for the town meeting itself. I think this is good enough
Yeah.
for government work, whether it is government work, so there you go.
I'll second it.
Andy? Okay, any further discussion? All right, hearing none, move to a vote. All those in favor of recommending to a town meeting, et cetera, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimous.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
ladies and gentlemen.
Now, I would just ask, much earlier, get us as much as you can and work through the Board of Selectmen, and I would ask the Board of Selectmen to do the same. It's not incumbent upon you. It really is. If you've been talking to folks, and they haven't been talking to us, that's on them, not you. Okay?
And we'll amend our procedure. We have no problem with that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And again, we have executive session we can go into and everything else. But these questions about, like, if it's going to cost us going forward, we kind of want to know that
Even if it's
because we're going to have to
estimated.
budget for it,
What are
right?
the current fees and, the Tinarellos and the other landowners paying?
Well, unfortunately, the Tinarellas is her husband, and he complains about the I'm not sure. I just wanted to make sure that the
Yeah.
people didn't
Here,
know
Tim.
that it was a town.
Yeah.
Road.
I'm out. Michelle,
Do you need it right now?
It was the
she can take a
No,
picture.
no, yeah, I need it.
budget. That's why we scripted it. And that road could be made smaller, right? That's what we're thinking, yeah, because our theory is we're protecting nature. We don't need to pave to it. So, but we need to look at it. We need to make sure there's enough of a bend in the road so the neighbors don't see. Yeah, things like that. So we,
Get rid of the electrical
I don't think
boxes that have
we can.
PCBs in them right
No,
now.
I
So,
don't
I
think
mean,
you can get rid of it. To take those out would be thousands of dollars. It would be. It's interesting.
they're filled with PCBs, so it's kind of like, what do we do?
Well, but it's underground wire. So you'd have to have them.
That's not the PCBs. The PCBs are the actual service.
Transformers.
Yeah.
But
Nobody's using it. It's just that
if we can, let me ask a question. The Board of Selectmen, was this contract made part of the record or no? And if not, can we get a copy of the
Well,
contract?
we didn't review or approve the contract per se, so I don't want to approve the contract.
That's not our.
No, I'm not asking to approve it. I'm just asking.
But if it becomes part of our record, I think that implies that.
I'm not asking it to become part of the record. If it's not available to folks,
What, you want the P&S?
for anybody who may inquire, and again, it can be private, I am
a little bit.
I think it's the FOI, so it's.
Well, yeah, we have the purchase and sale agreement if somebody wants it.
Yeah, they can, and if you'd like, I can email.
I don't want it, but if anybody else does.
Oh,
it just
yeah.
needs to be
It's available.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
It's available.
All right.
Would anybody like a copy of our open space plan? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
And I just want to mention that on the, I think next Wednesday, we're having a hikers happy hour. And it's going to be on the Old Lyme Land Trust, over by the spillway. That's over across from Rose Lane. What's the name of that preserve, land trust? And that's another Griswold, isn't it?
That's across from
Woody Griswold.
Oh, Stone.
Yes, it is. It is the Griswold
The
Preserve.
important thing, 5 o'clock, Old Lyme Man, happy hour price. And then the Old Lyme, Open Space is sponsoring one, the second Wednesday in October, we're doing Library Lane, and then again 5 o'clock at the, and this Saturday is National Public Lands Day, so take a hike. Yeah.
You take a
Open space?
Pardon?
Is Bill still part of open space?
He moved, but that was last one before Evan came on in 21. When that was adopted in 20, that was, he was the co-chair.
Oh, yes, okay.
Excellent.
Evan?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you for your support and hope to see you on a hike.
Okay. Financial reports. We all should have received physical copies. If there are any questions, I will collect them and send them to our finance director.
But David, let me just, excuse me, under expenditures, the police parking enforcement rangers is over budget by 13,000. Most of the overage is a significant overtime. I mean, I know that this is an issue with the overage of the police budget generally, but do you have, does anybody have kind of a narrative they can give me to explain why there's so much excess overtime in the police and the rangers?
Most of the rangers don't do a lot of overtime. I think they just do.
Yeah, if you look at that line item, it's not just police rangers. It's let's look at the line item.
It is the Rangers.
It is rangers.
It's not an individual line item.
Yeah,
though.
parking enforcement,
It is.
we ought to.
Parking
do that
enforcement
for
is rangers.
Yeah, parking enforcement / rangers.
But
Yeah.
it's Rangers.
Is that
what-
all
Yeah.
rangers?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that is to BJ's point, that was 25,000 basically in July and 25,000 in August.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hours.
And we still
I
have
mean,
rangers.
I just don't,
Yeah,
Now, are you going to talk about this a little bit later or no?
well, I can
For
talk about
police
this
related
now,
stuff.
but I.
Now, let's group it, because Weber, right, our resident state trooper, we obviously had our town meeting, 2 town meetings, got to a conclusion, so that's fine. But there may be other items that we need to have serious conversations about with him. And this is one of them, and then we've got another one too. So if I could, just reserve that, yeah.
there were a few items in here, Dave, that have expended their budgets, but most of them were contracted services, so I assume that was software fees or something that was a one-time.
You're talking to the wrong guy.
Well, I know, but that would be the question back to Nicole.
Yeah.
These contracted services, were those the one-time annual payments?
Yeah, like applied geographics and all that, you pay
Okay.
once a year up front.
Yep. If there are any questions, if I could ask, that people just email them to me, and then
Okay.
tomorrow I'll forward
I can do
all of them together
Yep.
to Nicole. All right?
And that was just kind of the theme through here, and I assume
Yeah,
that's
there's
what it is. Yeah.
some that are significantly over, but probably have no other expenditures for.
You know, like the beaches, we pay 50/50, but some, like I think, maybe transit district gets it all at once, so there's some variation to it.
Well, it looks like, again, I'll send it to you, but economic development, one line is, no, it's not, that's the percentage. It's 2,979% over budget, but it was a 297, yeah, it was a $10 line that $307 got applied to.
Outrageous.
So, it just.
To my point,
Kinda
$400,000
yeah.
tonight, show up, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on with life?
I'm good.
All right, good. So, if I could, yes, in Nicole's absence, if anyone does have any material questions, send them to me and I'll forward them to Nicole for answers. Old business. Any old business?
Oh, wait, I had a question back
Yep.
on her thing, if anybody knows. She is just under her carryover line, senior center improvement study. Does that mean they're using that? Or does that mean, does anybody know just off the top of your head? Or I can send this to you if we don't know.
Oh, are you talking about carryover senior center improvement study, point one architect?
Yeah, did they ask to use that? Or is that going into carry, like what is that?
Put that as a question, but typically,
Yeah, okay.
typically it's an outlay, right? It is something that even if it's carryover, we've actually incurred it and we've paid it.
Gotcha.
That's what I think that is, but if you would note that, I'll forward it.
Yeah, it's on, if you look on the carryover sheet,
there.
179, there was 14,889 and then 9926 put against it, so that's the amount.
So that's what that was. Okay, I don't need to ask them, Dave.
Yeah, we put in 15,000 and the seniors put in 15,000 for 30.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think they're using ours first instead of Terry.
It's not Terry Pursuit.
No.
It's a preferred arrangement, right? My money is preferred to yours. All right, old business. Any old business? New business. Oh, not new business. Soundview sidewalk, possible appropriation.
Mary Jo's here as well, but obviously the Soundview project is moving. The sidewalks are nearly complete. They need to come back in October and finish up a few things. That project, though, is well underway. There's an additional element to it, which is called the transit hub. And if you visualize the field to the west of the police department, there is a road that was boxed out by the company that did the Connecticut Water Work as a trade for using the field. And that the concept there will be a bus shelter, so the bus will come off of 156, go through the shelter, stop. The transit district would provide an enclosure like you see bus stop, kind of a glass.
I think we've talked enough about this at the last meeting. Everyone's kind of aware. Yep.
That whole thing.
It's a half-acre lot that we're talking about, right across from the church.
Yeah.
Half-acre lot. Yep.
Right. And so the initial cost for the core facility, the bus stop and some concrete pad and stuff would be about $50,000, and then to do landscaping and other stuff, it would increase that price to a higher number, and so the current situation is that we have an appropriation of $400,000 under the carryover that is being used to fund things. We also, on the income side of it, have the $400,000 from the grant, which was received in a prior fiscal year. So that's a deferred revenue, and that for eligible expenses can be earned, if you will. So if we submit a bill from an engineer or for the time and materials that's eligible for grant money, we can earn that money that was from the grant. There are other parts of it that are not grant eligible, and those monies must be paid by the town without any grant help. So at some point we will need to quantify an appropriation request, because the $400,000 will not be enough to do the total transportation hub and the non-grant eligible expenses. So the committee has been talking about this, and there's an objective to try to use the grant money to the fullest extent, because that's totally reimbursable. However, the non-grant money, if you use the full $400,000 of grant money, they're non-eligible if it's...
We're going to go over the 400 that the town has already approved, yeah.
And so I think there's got to be a quantification of what that sum is. And I spent some time with the engineer today trying to get a grip. The engineering estimates we have are just that at this point.
And we've also got like $36,000 for landscaping, right?
Well, that's in the hub budget.
But what's being asked of us tonight?
Just
a heads up.
Our open space. This is just a session to say this request is going to have to come forward at some point, because if this is to happen in the fourth quarter or the first quarter of next year, we're going to blow through the 400.
Yep.
And so there's got to be an analysis of the total project, how much it's going to go beyond 400,000, and then there'd be some consensus building as to some of the extras, like the plannings or other things,
which, by the way, haven't necessarily...
I'm sorry, I moved on to the next... I thought we're on the next agenda meeting. I thought we were done with open space.
No, we're on Soundview Sidewalk, number 5.
So why is Tim Griswold talking about open space?
He's discussing the sidewalk, not the open space.
Not open space. This is Tim Griswold, not Evan. At any rate, so Tim.
This is just, I think the point of it is to let you all know that we've mentioned this before, but I think in the next month we want to really get our arms around this and come back with a proposal. And the sidewalk part of it was the initial task, and that's pretty well in hand and will be completed in October. There are 3 change orders that are contemplated in this whole thing, and some of these costs are still being quantified. I don't think they're really nailed down. So in terms of saying, do we need 20, 30, 40, 50, we have to I think
it might be coming down the pike.
Yeah.
When the Board of Selectmen agree a number, then we'll await that.
We haven't gotten to that point either.
Right. But I think the last meeting that we had, it was detailed in some, it was enumerated very well. So we're aware of it, and if the Board of Selectmen recommends something to us, then we'll consider it at that point. Yep. Andy.
I guess one thing I'd like added to the information that we get once this comes back to us is the bus company must have a count as to how many people are using the service in that area. If we're looking to spend, whether it's grant money or not, I don't know, $50,000 plus landscaping plus whatever else is going to go there.
$120,000, yeah.
Are 2 people a day being picked up there? Are 20? Are 200? Obviously that's seasonal related, and maybe it would increase with a facility, but it'd be curious to know what sort of traffic? I mean, we build
Well,
in something that's
what
gonna
they
be
think,
empty.
if they had an actual stop there, what would that?
I mean, there is
generate?
currently a stop there, isn't there? Yeah, I mean, there's a stop there.
Yeah, but it's
on the
not-
road, and I understand
Right,
that's
exactly.
not necessarily the best place for a stop, but there's still
Yeah.
a usage.
So somebody
How many
from
people get on and off the
Saybrook
bus
might be-
there versus other
think it's,
places along the way?
Yeah, yeah.
Just-
Right, right.
Yeah, I spoke with Joe Comerford at Nine Transit today about that, and ridership is picking up.
Yep,
So the certainly is, but he also said that having an off-road bus stop highlights a bus stop.
Yep.
People are aware there's a bus stop. And
Yeah.
that his experience is that increases
Sure.
ridership.
That makes sense.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Safer bus stops.
Yep.
People drive around.
Wow.
Yeah, they're out there.
Yeah.
People have their bikes on this bus too. So
Yep.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of safety aspects for why this makes sense.
Yeah.
Could turn into a shelter too.
All right.
You never know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, new business.
Well, I could talk about police here, if that's appropriate.
Why don't we, let's talk about that because this is finance business, Tim.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think hearkening back to the
we got two things now.
Yeah, the
Yep.
Ranger situation, why obviously if the Ranger budget is over budget and it's 2 months into the year, Rangers aren't being used pretty much after Labor Day. So it's clear sailing till the spring.
Where we got one more month.
But they are, though, being used. Like, I saw them driving around today. So I don't know what they were doing, but I saw the Ranger vehicle all the way down here on 156. So even if they're not being utilized all the time, there's still a cost associated to having them, and this isn't the overtime budget, this is just their regular budget. So it's just continually piling up.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do about that? Do we need a quarterly?
Now it's
For
nice
our
of it.
purposes,
Yeah.
for budgeting.
But Tim's got another thing to bring up
Well,
as well,
I-
and then a point to make, I think.
I think we need, what last budget season, we increased the overtime for police from 43 to 80. This remained at 40 for last year and this year. So I think if we're 53, that's kind of like, okay, why are we spending quite so much?
Yeah,
And it's
what's
not-
changed?
It's not really COVID related because this last summer was very minimally COVID related. So
we
and now we're trying to address the typical issues at the beach, but this is not sustainable.
So Weber, right? Weber's now been here long enough. He's been through one budget season, correct?
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, we raised it 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we had a conversation with him, and he's got, in my view, his heart is in the right place. We want safety for the community, but it's divorced from the financial realities of what he's got available to him. And also, there's carryover issues as well, which are confusing. They're confusing to us. Every year we get into carryovers, and we have to remind ourselves, like, what's going on again? And so we just went through, our town meeting, and we went through another town meeting to rightfully describe what was going on after sitting down with the guy. And I think that this may be residual in my view, but in terms of his approach to things. Hey, I'm just a cop. I need to get things done, and the money is there somewhere. It's in carryover. I don't know what's going on. He is a resident state trooper. We've had good and bad resident state troopers with varying degrees, in my view, of administrative abilities. And so I think that we went through COVID, so we had all sorts of issues.
there wasn't a lot of kind of back and forth going on, but I think that this is a young guy that really needs a lot more oversight, in my personal view, from the selectmen. And I think that Tim would agree in terms of conversations with him that he's got an attitude of, I will spend and somebody else will find it, and that's not right. So that's...
Well, there's another matter, and we ordered 3 cars over a period of 2 years, and there was issues because the pandemic delayed the receipt of a car, and so it went into a future fiscal year and the money in the back year, and so it's very, very confusing. But at this moment, we received an invoice from a company in Old Saybrook, Advanced Emergency and so they essentially outfit the car, put the lights on it, and the various installation of the electronics and so forth and so on. And we have 2 invoices which are dated in May, totaling some $14,259, let's call it. This would be to do 2 cars with the lights, a console, a trunk tray, cargo barrier, push bumper, antennas, all this stuff. So about $7,100 each. So there were some issues, I guess, with the cars, and so we didn't come in to be paid until rather recently. So in looking for a home for this, the carryover from last year is very minimal, and this should likely have, if the cars were acquired last year or in prior periods, the funding for the accessory stuff should kind of follow it, and trying to piece together where the dollars are and where they went. We really don't have much in the way of money to pay, because last year the accessory line was $13,200, but as I say, most of that was spent, and a mere $2,600 was carried over. This year we have money for a car and the normal stuff, computer, all that, and
what's his overage, Tim? What's his overage?
Well, at this, we have the $15,578 for these bills, and the accessory line really has very minor money in it.
For prior year, though, right?
Yeah.
Because this would be in May, and so it would be in the last fiscal year. But we've got $10,100 in this current fiscal year.
Well, that's for this year we're due to buy a $40,000 car.
Well, that's my question, is because the timing, right, it got pushed with the COVID and this and that, but if we're still going to buy that car, then that's not available.
Yeah, I guess, that would be a really good question. Where we got these cars later than anticipated, can we pass on buying a car this year?
I think they were 3 cars that are pressed in service, and then we generally buy a car a year, and then every once in a while buy 2.
Yep.
So in fiscal 21 we bought 2 cars, which are part of this package.
Yep.
And then the other stuff that goes with it are in there.
Yep.
But what I'm getting at is between the carryover and an accessory line, those funds for the prior fiscal year aren't available to pay this fiscal year, and the work essentially was done.
Meaning last year.
Yeah.
So when I'm saying last year we were significantly over budget for the police cars, but we didn't have to pay it last year, so that amount is left to be paid this year?
Yeah, but that goes back to saying, okay, if you're going to spend $7,000 to put the accessories on, you would likely think that, we would have lines for accessories 13.2, but the 13.2 was spent.
So are you saying that the accessories were spent by the resident state trooper without authorization from finance?
No, I mean, they have a variety of invoices here that were paid from the accessory line, but they weren't these two big ones.
But that's what I'm saying. In other words, we create a budget, and the budget includes accessories, and I think what I'm hearing is that their accessory budget was way overspent.
So the accessory budget, DJ, it sounds like we have a budget in the current fiscal year of whatever it is.
Well, for last fiscal year, we had a budget.
Look, we're just talking about a single fiscal year, right? So let's say it's $12,000. And then we had carryover of something that you can also spend for that particular line item. And to your point, the $12,000 plus whatever it was got overspent kind of times 2 because we bought 2 cars. Yes.
Well, I don't know whether it was because we bought 2 cars or because the officer
it was not
ordering
budgeted
the equipment wasn't looking at the budget. He was just ordering.
Yeah.
The latter. It was the latter.
Yeah.
It was absolutely the latter. Hey, it's somewhere. It's in the carryover. It's in this. It's in that. I just bought a police car, so I got to get it.
You got to get the accessories put on it.
Yeah. That's
otherwise the car would have to sit.
That's the problem.
That's the practical issue,
So
and that is a problem.
It's a problem in having our various departments spend what they got unless they get approval to spend more.
Right, and so
I am very confused by what we did and what she's got here, because under vehicle accessories, so I'm looking at the capital non-recurring budget, and there's 2 lines for police vehicles and vehicle accessories. And the vehicle accessories line, she doesn't even have one in here for this year. Instead, it's called emergency lighting installation, which I'm assuming is what we're talking about.
I've got police vehicle accessories of $10,100.
Where do you see that? Because she says move to operating, but you go to operating.
In capital outlay public safety.
It's on page 14 of the current
This month.
September sheet.
Yeah, this one. But where is it in our budget book?
Look on page 14.
Well, it's the line number.
Are you in the capital?
300 is capital.
Yeah. Which one is it? What am I looking at here?
About in the middle, there's police vehicle accessories 10-1. But see, that's in this fiscal year, this car purchase.
119.20.
So, what we got.
BJ, your assessment.
Hold on.
And so that was
Which, where do you see
what
it?
my comment.
No,
I
what
got
is
it here.
different?
So here's,
He had an
Yeah, I see that. I
10 grand.
can't
Just do
find
it.
where that is. Because these don't have numbers on them.
See,
So, hold on. Why doesn't this have a number on
This
it?
year's police vehicle up for rent.
what's that?
This year's police vehicle up for rent.
Yeah, our budget book did not have numbers.
What he did say is that some of these
It's
items
over
will not need to be
public
spent.
safety, police, and see she's got vehicle accessories zeroed out for last year and this year, and it says move to operating, tasers, etc.
What?
A 21
But
bill.
where did it move to?
What she doesn't want to emotionally, or she thinks there's an economic problem?
I mean, this is what we got in January, right? So maybe there's been.
But this is what got approved. This is what got approved. So yeah, that is what we got in January on it.
Yeah.
this could change.
Yeah.
I wish she would give us like an update, because this is.
Well, this is the update.
This is what got approved at town meeting.
Right.
So.
But it's,
And then if you should have though in there, you should have what last year's.
That's what I was kind of pointing,
2020
and it's zero. It doesn't line up with it, so that's why.
Well, this is only this year.
Yeah.
I know.
This is only
So I was
But
looking to
it
figure
has
out
both
last year,
there,
and to see if like the year before, if there was money that we didn't spend,
I see.
and if it had
Well, that would
somehow
be-
gotten spent, and then at least
But
we
that
could
would be-
account for where this
That would be in
ended up.
carryover, so you kind of
Which
have
is
to look
zero.
at
Yeah,
like
which is
three.
there, it's just not
You have to
in.
look at 3 different
Yeah,
places.
80.
Yeah.
2680.
Right.
But it would make sense if we had something.
That would only be if we approved it for this year. Like last year, there could have been carried.
Well, this is from 2021, so this was money that was in last year's budget.
Yeah.
There's no other police capital.
So wait,
Money for this
So,
fiscal year then?
so Tim, I think there's two things, because
We gotta pay the bill.
Is it less than 20 grand? Can we
Yeah.
do it? Okay, let's just finish.
so,
Don't have any carryover money for it. And Nicole doesn't really want to use the 22 money.
so we're gonna approve it, and we're gonna get angry at Weber. How about that? I mean, that's not the motion.
He's on.
Oh my God.
But so what's the number for this?
Nicole is giving some pushback to using 2022 money for a 2021 budget expense.
That makes sense.
But
if we didn't get the bill.
that actually does make sense. I mean,
I don't know whether it makes sense or not, but that's the problem Tim is worrying about.
Well, we can't, if he's projecting underspending in this capital budget, he can't use that cookie jar to pay for this.
Yeah.
because the time period is the time period, right? If he incurred it in May,
It was the same thing as the police overtime that we just had a town meeting for.
that's exactly right. That's
Well, went to
right.
town meeting because of the amount. This is under $20,000.
Yeah, but the reason is the same, yeah.
I mean, I get, it has an implication in the audit if we don't approve it, if it's,
So,
Well, the cleanest thing would be, if you want more time to think about it, but to take the 14, call it 300, and pay these two bills, and then this can settle out where it settles out, and in the end, it would save, when we get all
So
that.
We need to make a motion to approve 14,300 to pay for.
out of the general funds, but in 2021 budget year, right?
and we do that.
No, didn't she close it out
Do
already?
it this year, because 21.
They did it in May. We
I
got
know.
the
We didn't
bill,
get the bill.
we got the bill ex post facto.
That-
So her problem is, she's trying to match
I
when the
know.
work
Yeah,
was
we have to
done,
pay.
versus when the bill was received.
So are we, so we don't get stung at the end of the year, and I know we've got to be careful with this, looking to add 14,400 to that line item for this current year.
Yeah. I think that's the only way you can do it.
The problem with that is, if there's an overage in that line again this year, we can't do it. It's got to go to town meeting, I think, even if it's less than 20.
You're
Look.
right.
So, I'm just,
Yeah, but.
I'm more than willing to make.
But if this truly, because Nicole's issue is, this was a 2021 item. We may have gotten the invoice ex post facto, but that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think the motion should be to approve from the general fund the 14,300 to be applied to this bill, and she can account for it however she.
It's got to go on that line item, I would think, still.
Right.
But the monies are not coming out of this current year's budget, they're coming out of general fund.
That's your point. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I'll make that motion. To
Approve
$14,400 to pay for the police the accessories for the police vehicles. 300, okay, thanks for saving the 100.
For accessories, and
On the vehicles.
what's the date of the bill, Tim? Or what's the date of the work?
It's May 7th on the invoice as to when the bill was tendered with.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
May 7th.
For the two police vehicle accessories, the work that was done,
Invoice of May 7th, 2021.
that might not have been received till September of
Is
22.
that true, that it wasn't received until September?
I think there were disagreements about some things, and they fixed it up, and by the time it came here, it was fairly recently.
So,
I wish they redated the bill, but it doesn't matter.
No, but the work was done in May, so from an accounting perspective,
Yeah.
that's when you need to,
yeah, and then
you need to
Nicole
book,
can.
yeah, you
whatever
need to
she
book
needs
the
to put it.
expense or the outlay.
I second your
Allocate the
I was
money.
gonna say second.
So, no, but to be clear for Michelle's benefit, right? So it's a motion to approve.
$14,300 for police accessories as billed.
As billed May 7th.
As billed.
Per invoice dated May 7th, 2021.
From the general fund.
From the general fund.
I think Matt seconded it.
Yeah, Matt seconded.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Good.
Just not to belabor this line item, but, Anna's comment, police ranger car, I mean, I think there are a couple former police cars that have been allocated to police rangers. I think usually when we got new police cars, they were sold off, repurposed. I know Ed Adante drove a former police car for a number of times. I think if we bought 2 new cars last year, I'd be interested to see what our fleet looks like. Are we disposing of vehicles? Are we auctioning them off? Repurposing them? It sounds like we're getting a little fat with number of vehicles between rangers and police. And is that necessary?
Yeah.
Maybe it is. I just think
it's
something that we need to keep in mind.
Question to ask,
Animal Control's old car is still in service, isn't it?
Well, Ed Adante is using that
It's the
thing.
traffic control vehicle.
Yeah, it's a traffic control vehicle.
It's Matt's car. I don't think it's going to stay if it gets hit, but whatever.
All right.
We'll get a car count on what they are.
I think I'd be interested in what we have 2 years ago and what we have now.
Yeah.
In that area anyway.
And we've gotten those numbers. We've gotten that detail before.
Yeah.
So.
We need to get it from Weber. All right. Approval of August 17th, 2021 minutes. I have reviewed them. I have no comments myself. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes. So, all right. Is there a second? Olson? Okay. Ritter, thank you. Review, and then any comments, discussion?
Yeah, I've got some questions, comments. On page 2, Mr. Russell arrived at 7:55 p.m. Was he seated?
No.
Okay, so it may be irrelevant if he arrived then, but in any event, we should say he wasn't seated because any subsequent resolutions would not have been voted on by Andy, right?
That's correct.
They were voted on by the alternate.
Right. So I would either strike that or add the words, he wasn't seated for the meeting.
Strike it is fine.
Well, it'd be nice to know that I'm listed on the top, that I was here, and...
but then just put in...
Then you want everybody to know that you were so late?
I don't care. What are they going to do, fire me? Maybe?
I'm indifferent.
Please.
You have to say he was seated, but he was not a voting member.
Arrived as a non-voting member?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Or just...
He wasn't seated as a...
If you want to take it out, it doesn't matter to me.
Take it out. Let's just take it out.
Then you have, what do you do on the front page where it says I was present in person? Which I was present in person.
He's arrived late.
But here it says a motion.
How about up front, you just put arrived 7:55, did not vote or something?
That's perfect.
All right. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, then next, in the Grassy Hill Road Bridge, the second line, the third line from the bottom of that paragraph begins, be about $80,000 and a 10% parens of construction costs, $96,300. Does that omit the words contingency?
Yes.
All right, so insert after the parenthetical, Michelle, contingency of $96,300.
Right here, right after that.
And then a right-of-way estimate.
Hold on. So right after that, friend. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then a right-of-way estimate, $5,000, which puts, I think you need a phrase there, must be added, comma, which puts the project at?
Which puts the total cost of the project at approximately $1.2 million.
Yeah. But after 5,000, insert the phrase must be added.
And the right-of-way estimate of 5,000, which puts the total project cost at approximately 1.2.
Yeah,
How about that?
that's fine.
Yeah, the cost after the project. I had a comment in the same paragraph, right in the middle where it says DOT PowerPoint presentation. Was that an engineer that was presenting it? Because that's a very expensive PowerPoint presentation. That's all it was. Does anybody recall? Like, is that an engineer? Was that an engineer cost, not necessarily a DOT PowerPoint presentation?
Our engineer went up to Berlin to talk to.
Yeah, it was not only,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I mean,
I
at
think
the
we should
time.
add that DOT PowerPoint presentation by engineer.
Or associated with new deep permit and deep PowerPoint presentation. Or just eliminate the $2,500. I mean.
Yeah, just take that, you just take that out.
Yeah.
But why do you call me?
I don't know how to
Is that Michelle Hayes?
What? No, she's right here.
What is?
Michelle Hayes.
right
Record
here.
them, Chad.
Oh, boy.
It's my birthday. It's my birthday. I don't.
Big trouble. Big trouble coming.
You can't mute her, she's gotta mute herself.
Hey,
Mute everyone.
it's a code.
Alexis, mute everyone.
David, is it dial a number to mute?
The muting only goes
No,
one way.
it's,
The muting
yes,
only
you're right,
goes
I'm
one
sorry,
way.
zero microphone.
It only goes this way.
No, you can mute because
You can mute all
you
participants.
can mute all participants.
Oh.
Yeah. Because at the Board of Selectmen meeting. we
No,
all
no, no,
muted
I got it right here. Yeah.
Again, this week. Oh,
Okay.
Just remember Adam's there, or he was anyway.
oh geez.
We'll give somebody a couple of minutes to cool off.
Okay.
All right, so,
Okay.
all right,
Anybody else on this paragraph?
wait. DJ, anything more?
I've got the next paragraph.
Go for it. I'm done.
Yes, the next paragraph, I just couldn't make sense of it. So if you, beginning, Mrs. Sadger distributed the carryover summary, highlighted the total as of 6/30/20 was $2 million. The amount spent is 1.4, leaving 644,980 unspent as of 6/30/20, right?
Yeah, so that's the addition. Leaving $644,980 unspent.
That would have been the carryover available for.
As of 06.
No, I have no quarrel with that. My quarrel follows.
Oh, I thought that was a clarification.
Detail the items that were not going to be spent and returned to surplus. Okay, you subtract the 326 from the 644, and then total carryovers from previous years, fiscal year 2016 through 2020. Should it be 2019? Is 318, and then the carryovers from 2021 were discussed. That's $1,041,000, along with the discussion, and then somehow we've got a.
Well, do we have does anyone have the figures?
Well, it should be on.
I don't have last month.
Well, at the beginning, as of 6/30/21, which is what.
No, because we voted on it. She did, yeah.
Getting to, on our current sheet that we got,
Right.
is the 1.3 million.
Right, I just didn't add to that.
That's our bottom line number there.
Right.
2015.
It would have been.
Should we? Total carriers from previous years is this. The
Here we
total
go.
carriers was
I have it.
discussed with this, one was discussion. Carryover as well as carryover amount per the same project, and decided to remove.
Yeah, I've got her. This is what she gave us last month. Maybe.
Yeah, So if you add the 318,000 plus the 1.041, that gets you 1.345. Yep.
And subtract the 149.9.
Right.
You get 1,210,000.
210.
123.
Yeah. So the answer is that last figure right there, right? And so
I know.
That should be a 2 instead of a 3.
should be a 2 instead of a 3.
No, it's 3 on the budget sheet. Rather than waste the board's time, my proposal would be that we send
We can table
to
these.
Nicole. We table this paragraph,
Sure. Yeah.
have Nicole fix it, and then revisit it next.
Sounds good.
Is it wrong on the whole sheet?
Well, we don't have the call sheet, that's the issue.
No.
Well, you got like.
We made a bunch of weird changes though, that I remember we were all talking, so she maybe just didn't.
Well, Michelle was just recording what was happening.
Right,
and-
so Michelle
yeah.
maybe just,
Well,
between
we were back and
Nicole,
forth
we were
on
back and forth on
150
a
and
bunch of,
149
yeah. And a 50, we
And are we
took
gonna keep it,
out.
and we took something else out?
Yeah, so.
Oh, that's right.
I have it, there's random stuff, I've got cross-outs on here and all kinds of, so, yeah, I think
Oh, that's good.
Nicole can probably just fix that, and I'll figure out what it actually, those numbers should be.
No, you weren't here for that.
Yeah.
All right, so table the minutes?
Well,
Just that part.
You have this.
on page 4,
Yep.
the bottom of the page, it says, Mr. Adante stated that it will take more than $73,000 to repair a counteroffer. Ed didn't counteroffer, Tim did, so I would say estimated $100,000. Mr. Adante estimated $100,000, right?
Yeah.
He heard Pascalini.
Right, but he wasn't the one dealing with the best.
We were on the phone together, actually.
No, I thought you said it for us.
All right.
Okay.
You had the authority to do it.
All right, so with
So it's on page 4 down here, for counter offers. Right, we're there at the bottom. Over here. Yep, counter offer, change that to estimated.
and then we're going to table the minutes. Well, it should be a motion for
I
that.
have one more edit on
Yep.
the page 5. Second paragraph, second line, after Mr. Adante, we just need the word to be paid.
Yep.
Is there a motion?
Well, actually, we're gonna
table,
Yeah.
So there's a motion on the table to accept the minutes, so it's got to be,
Who made the motion?
no, I can't remember.
Olson, right?
Olson made it, and then
So,
Otto
please
seconded
amend
it.
your motion and then I'll.
Yeah, amend your motion.
amend my
I'll make a
second.
motion to table the minutes until next month, pending clarification regarding the numbers on
Carryover.
carryover. Yeah.
Yep. All right, is there a second?
I gave a second, so I'll amend my second. So. Matt, second.
Sounds good, okay. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Very good, thank you. Okay. Selectmen's report, abbreviated, maybe?
Yeah, be pretty fast forward. We already talked about Townview sidewalks. Ferry Road sidewalks, the engineer is working on the ways to minimize the impacts of the tree roots on Ferry Road on the north side. When he's finished with that, we will, the tree warden, if we go on the north side, the tree warden would likely identify about 4 trees for removal, 2 larger ones and 2 small ones. And so we'd probably then have a public hearing, get public input, and then make a recommendation back to the Board of Selectmen, and then hopefully get this project underway in this early spring. Soundview Sewers, the bids are out, the rebids are out, hoping for more favorable bids because the project was broken down into smaller pieces. They are due back in October. We also are awaiting the New London officials to sign the New London intermunicipal agreement. That gives us the capacity at the plant. And also, we have not consummated the agreement with East Line for the pipe and the pumping stations along the way, because one of the officials is not running for re-election. They're reluctant to finish the job, but we'll get that done. Grassy Hill, did I say last time that session at the DOT, which had DOT officials and Corps of Engineers, Corps of Engineers wanted to change the configuration of the bridge to be like a 12-foot opening and a 4-foot opening instead of more equal openings. Did I mention that? Okay. That, I mean, if we proceed with the engineering on that, that would be about a $10,000 upcharge. So I guess I'll speak to Nicole and see, you know,
Who's the general from the Corps of Engineers that's over at the Grassy Hill Bridge for us?
I thought it was Colonel Sanders.
Don't have him show up again. It just keeps getting more expensive.
Oh, boy. The Scale House, the Weiss Construction, who did the restroom building at the Haynes Park, will be doing the Scale House building. The crawl space foundation has been installed, and they have ordered the materials for the construction. It'll be about a 2-month job to build that. So that Phil's going to be looking at that as we go along. Tanama Hague Landing, we had a session at the Selectmen's meeting last night with the Mr. Frampton, one of the owners. I think I mentioned that he gave us a document a while back, which he deduced that he owns the town landing and not the town. So Jack Collins actually was having a meeting with him today to discuss that in more detail. We are not agreeing to that, but he and his wife went through a lot of work back to the late 1600s looking at stuff, and they believe that they own it. We said, well, until we agree that as well, we're not agreeing. And
Tim, wouldn't a survey just solve this whole thing?
Well,
like you got land
bounds, you have that title insurance or that sort of thing.
No. You've got a land description on the title that he's got. You get the land description on the property across the way. You have those two surveys.
But I guess
whatever. Doesn't matter.
I'm not beyond my pay grade.
Right.
So
Jack could figure it out, but have you
well, no. Jack is not a land attorney. That's a problem. So there might be a junior guy in his firm that's a land attorney, but
he said that if he is correct, that he would still welcome the public on his terms, I presume, which might mean no vehicles, but we're not going down that road.
For people.
The American Recovery Plan Committee will be meeting within the next week or 10 days, an initial meeting, and start trying to figure out how we can make distributions of the money that we have received. I think, we have 2 years to make the plan and 2 more years to execute the plan. So, but I guess in fairness to everyone, if we can come to a consensus on what to do. There was at the COG meeting, the Council of Government, there is a state chartered commission. It is a subset of the Middlesex Chamber, that would be able to review any kind of business applications for funding, requests. And so, my great fear is that if we said we can give money to businesses, nonprofits, and individuals, that if you had 100 or 200 applications, we're not a bank. We don't have the capacity to look through all this stuff. So I think we need to try to figure out big picture what we want to do, make pots of money maybe, and then insulate, put some capable people in between the recipients and ourselves for these things that might involve a lot of numbers. So that's going to unfold. The Estradi Transit District, I think I've mentioned in the past, they are working on a merger with the Middletown Transit District. The Estradi Transit would be the primary entity. You'd think it would be Middletown, but actually, because our transit district is really quite a stellar one, the DOT, I think, and all people believe that our Joe Comerford, our director, would be the right man to lead the whole thing. And it would involve, Oline and Lime are the only two towns in New London County. The others are up the river, and so it'd be about it's about a 17-town, but not necessarily every town would be in it. But it would be, in small individual transit districts are going to have a hard time surviving, and they kind of already do, although ours has done pretty well. So this merger would be blessed by the DOT. We want the commissioner to sign a letter to give it more oomph, but we are totally dependent on funding at the state and federal level to buy buses and run the whole thing. And we were told that the individual municipal payments would not change radically with the merger, and service has changed and increased. Back to the question of if we have a bus stop, how many people. The pandemic has taken its toll on the ETD. The ridership is down, it's building back up. And oddly, or not so oddly, I guess, on TV, now bus drivers are scarce. So they've had problems finding drivers. And if one were to mandate that drivers must have their vaccinations, they could lose more drivers for those who would say, I'm not getting it. So that's a quandary. And last, we are meeting there was I was not involved, but there was a conversation with the salary survey company, and they are due to come in here in October and start the process of the wage and salary survey and the job descriptions and so forth. So that's coming along.
One question back to the transit.
Yeah.
Are they going to do a nonstop from Middletown to Soundview?
I think Frank's doing that now.
Frank Morales is doing that already.
He's cheating. Oh, boy.
All right.
I have a question for Tim. Regarding the salary survey company, how are we doing on the HR piece of that, the consultancy?
That they could be capable of doing that. I think as they come in here, we would be talking to the finance people, because they are the ones who have been doing a lot of that work, as well as the front office.
Finance being like your finance department here?
Yeah.
Okay. So like Nicole and Amy?
Yeah. Because I think they have said we don't want to do it, which is understandable, but we need to know more particularly what they do and what should be done and all that. So the firm, I believe, there are something like 34 employees, and they're not just a mom and pop. So I think we could evaluate whether they might have the capacity to do the survey as well as the HR resource. You know, there's been discussion about a part-time HR person, but I don't know where one would find such a person just out of the blue, but, you know, so that's going to be part of the exploration, see if they might have that capacity and make sure that people were comfortable with, because I don't even know where we're going, honestly, in terms of what we need to have done. And, you know...
Is that part of the scope of the folks that we've hired beyond the survey and the salary survey?
They have the capacity, but I guess we need to be sure what we need and how responsive they would be and so forth.
Yeah, because we use a third party. We have a lot of employees.
Yeah.
We still use a third party.
And you're in many states, so...
Yep. And so that's all the more helpful. So,
yeah, so they have different jurisdictions. And
how many people did you interview in terms of the starting place was the salary and the salary survey,
there
right?
were three.
And the HR, three groups. Okay.
Yeah.
So you haven't engaged them yet for HR purposes, just for the salary survey, though?
That's the principal assignment. When they get here, we will, you know, sit down and talk to them about the other piece as well, because that, but we didn't tell the company we want you for both. It may well be that if they are quite capable at both, that it might make some good sense.
You didn't make promises though, right? You didn't make promises.
No, other than the first assignment. That's a all.
Okay. Questions, comments, etc.? Entertain motion to adjourn. Gervin?
Second.
No debate. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much.
First presentation.
Yeah, first presentation put us behind time.
I said that, I'm going to be a short one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, give them a property.